button. All right, guys. Today, got a very exciting call. What I want to do is mostly kind of go over, we're going to be going over how to automate your agency from the start. Now, some kind of adjusting these things. The reason I want to do this call is because we wanted to really go in detail about what it takes, the mindset before anything to go out there and automate it. And then more importantly, I wanted to have Blake on here because he is a prime example of someone who's implemented this. I kind of took the other route where it's more of focus on understanding every aspect of the business first to then start growing it. Whereas Blake, you weren't really great at sales when you first got started.
Right.
So you kind of went the other route of wanting to bring on other team members, right?
Right.
So before we jump into all of this, I want to go over a little bit of the mindset, and then we'll kind of have Blake talk a little bit more. And then if you guys have any questions, drop them in on the chat. We'll open up for Q&A at the end. But first things first, when you're going through this, if you decide, there's really two paths you can kind of think about when doing this. Is one, kind of doing a lot of it on your own at first, where it's like understanding, hey, the prospecting, what's working the right way. Hey, I'm going to hop on, I'm going to close the deals, I'm going to do the fulfillment, and then start gradually hiring and growing from there. Or, and that's the route that I took and what I mostly recommend, or you can kind of take the route which Blake is kind of taking a little bit right now, where it's more of when you first get started, start bringing on a closer, start bringing on fulfillment, start bringing on a lot of stuff so you can be more of the CEO. Each way is good, but each way also has its benefits and its downfalls, right? So, we'll go over those. We'll cover those here in a second. But I think the main thing I want to share with you guys is really develop and really understand which position, which way you want to go. Because if you go the route where you're hiring stuff right off the bat, and I've talked to a couple of you about this, is you've got to be prepared mindset wise that one, you're not going to make as much money up front at first. And two, it's going to be something that requires a little bit more time to start seeing faster results because, and we'll cover that here in a second. But when you're doing it yourself, you can fastly adapt to things. Whereas when you're bringing on, somebody else to do a position for you, white labeling or closing deals, you have to be more patient with them and have them understanding the process. But it's one of those things, you have benefits, you have downfalls for everything. Obviously, once you automate it at first, you're going to have a lot more free time. So we wanted to hop on here. Blake, I'm going to kind of just shoot it over to you, get started with, what do you think when you're outsourcing your agency, kind of automating it, what is the first aspect that you look for when you did yours?
Well, for me at least, I noticed that I did not like to do the sales.
Right.
Well, first off, I'll kind of go from the beginning. I learned everything kind of myself. Like I did the sales, I did the fulfillment, I did all the prospecting, I did pretty much everything. I kind of got like an understanding of how the agency works. And as soon as I understood like how to actually like run the agency, like how to get clients, how to do fulfillment, that's kind of when I started, focusing on what I'm good at. I knew I was good at like running the ads, getting results, and just basically putting systems together. I knew like sales is like my biggest downfall. I was getting on sales calls all the time, and a lot of people were like, I was just basically like missing a lot of deals I knew I should have closed. So I was like, okay.
These are the calls that you were on.
Calls I was on. Yep.
All right, wait, before you go ahead, can you guys, I want to make sure you guys can all hear us from sitting back here. If you can hear us, put a 1 in the chat, just so we know. Because we are kind of sitting a little bit, we got a new setup. We're at the parents' house right now, as you can see, and just testing some things out. So 1, 1, 1. Okay, cool. So going back on that, you said, just to reiterate, your biggest thing was you were hopping on the sales calls and you weren't good at it, and you realized that someone else could be
better. And I felt like I was kind of wasting my time because like I was getting all these calls all day and I was just like pissing away opportunities, which I knew someone else could close. So the first thing I did was I actually reached out to one of my buddies. I knew he lived actually back in Kentucky. We actually met up at a coffee shop and I basically just interviewed him. I was kind of talking to him like, hey, like I need help. I know you're a good salesperson. You can help me out as well too. And basically showed him the opportunity. Like we're starting to grow. This is going to be a great opportunity for you to learn how to run a successful agency and just kind of learn the ropes and everything. So that's kind of what I did from there. I knew I didn't want to do sales anymore. I wanted to focus on what I'm good at and let somebody else take over the sales.
Gotcha. I love that. I love the intense. I love where you're going at with all this, because there's really a couple different ways. And with what you're saying with that, and you guys, I don't want you to think if you're not good at sales, don't give up on it, because nobody's good at sales when you first get started. Now, if you're wanting to go more like the CEO route, like you're saying, where would you say, because I know there's some people in here that are kind of in the same position or in a similar position, what would you say for somebody that's trying to find a good sales rep before like going into the interview questions? How do you find that good sales rep?
And that's a great question. I get that question asked a lot actually, and I always recommend going to the people you know first off. You know, like instead of going to people like on Facebook groups and all that stuff, which that's you can definitely do that. I've done that before. Go to people you know and be like, hey, like if they have good sales experience, they would be a great opportunity. If not, they can always learn. Like
Mhm.
there's a certain type of person that that would be better at sales. Like I guess people that are more like, people that just like I don't know. I want to say argue, but like not really. You know what I'm talking about? Like you can tell someone who's going to be a good salesperson versus someone who's not going to be a good salesperson.
How do you tell?
Just like the way they talk to people, like not being a pushover, not being a pushover. People who like to kind of argue in a way, like people who like to, I guess, compete in a way with like speaking, if that makes sense.
I think that's pretty solid. I mean, that's to be honest. I mean, when I've been through a lot of hires as well, and the one thing that we look for, and Kyle is a perfect example of this. I look for competition, people that like to compete,
Yep.
and if you find somebody that likes to compete, interview them, ask them more questions. So going off of that, what else? What are some other characteristics that you like to look for?
So when I'm interviewing them, I like to see how they're kind of communicating with me. Like if
Mm-hmm.
they like to take control of the conversation right away, that's the number one thing. If they like, I talk to them and I interview them, and like if they can take control of the conversation from the beginning, or if they even try to interview me back, which the last salesperson I hired, he did that right away. He's like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to do. This is what I want to do on this call. This. I'm like, okay, I like this guy already. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So definitely take control. And just kind of the way they talk. If they're good at communicating with people, if they're good at communicating with you, they're a decent fit. So
Right.
mainly communication skills is a huge part of it.
Yeah. And so going off that, let's give them some ideas on where to find these type of people. I mean, I know we talked about Facebook groups. You said tapping into your
Your network,
network already,
yeah.
which again, usually a good way of that is like you said, tapping into your network. If you can find people that are, if I was in one of your guys' positions and I was looking for somebody to hire as a sales rep or someone to take over exactly my someone to start taking over my sales calls, because you also got to remember when you have somebody doing your sales, they're 100% in charge of the money, the revenue that's coming in your business. So that's a big step. Like, especially when you first hire someone, a lot of times you can't expect to see revenue right away because they have to understand the process and your product before. Now, a couple of things to look for is one, and this, if I was in any of your guys' shoes right now, the first thing I would do is reach out to some agency owners already who like the sales aspect, who are good at it, who can close, but they can't do the back end, or they don't know how to do the back end, or don't know how to get enough appointments on the calendar. Because if you can find somebody that already understands where you're coming from and understands this business model, that's the type of people that you're looking for.
And that's a good point you say that too, because
Yeah.
the person I partner with, they want to get in the agency space so bad, but like I don't know how to get results. I don't want to get results. I just want to talk to people. I want to close people. And
Yeah.
I was the complete opposite. I was like, I want to give people results. I don't want to talk to people. So it was like a perfect relationship, like we kind of balanced each other out. Um, and really, yeah, one other thing I always tell people in the agency space is just communicate with people. Go to Facebook, slide in people's DMs, and see how you can help them, how they can help you.
Slide.
Just slide in the DMs. I couldn't tell you how many friends I've made, like good friends, like best friends right now. Like I talk to every single day, just like by saying like, hey, what's up? I see you in the digital marketing space. Like, what
Mm.
do you do exactly? And then just communicate. You know,
That's really good. I want to stop you there because I notice some of the conversations I have with people that struggle in this is you don't want to be a robot when you're in the DMs. We're not going to go down the sales route in this call, but like just know like keep that same approach when you're prospecting people. You want to build a relationship up front and actually just be a real human. Like, it's mind blowing how much money I made off the DMs by
oh
just
yeah,
having a simple conversation. And to be totally transparent with you guys, most of you are in this call right now because of the gradual communication that we had with you on there. So again, model what we're doing because it's working with us as well, and implement it with yourself. So going back towards the exact sales process of hiring, first sales, if you're going that route, what is it that, like, what type of questions do you look for when you're on the calls? Like, what is a good candidate for someone that is
so
in this?
yeah, there's two routes you can take. One, you can find someone that has good sales experience, which
Mm.
I found someone, the very first person I had, he had great sales experience. He knew how to close. And then, we worked together for a while. He ended up going his own way. But then the next salesperson, he had no sales experience, but he told me, he's like, hey, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. Like, he did a great job on the interview with me. And he's like, I'll be honest with you. Like, I just got out of this coaching program for sales. Like, he's like, I just learned sales, but I have no experience. I'm like, okay, no big deal. That is a little bit more challenging because you have to train them. You have to train them on sales. Agency sales is a little bit different. And then you also have to train them on exactly what you're doing. So you can go two routes, finding people who don't have a lot of experience, which is great because, they can build with you. Or you can find someone who has sales experience. The only downside of that is you have to have a steady stream of appointments for them. If you don't, they're not going to stick with you,
That's really important too. And that's why I really want you guys to focus on, if you are going this route, or even when you're at this route, is make sure you're getting leads coming in, or at least positive responses. Like, that's why it's like, just start testing a bunch of this stuff. Even if you get people that say, yes, they're interested, and you don't have a sales rep to hop on a call with them, like, just do it yourself and like, just build a little bit about it. I mean, if you really don't want to hop on the calls and you don't want to make money, that's fine. But like, really remember and focus on this. My main point with this is like, you're putting someone else 100% in control of your revenue in your business. And it can work. It's worked for Blake. It's worked for me. It's worked for a lot of people. But just remember that, like, if you're not seeing sales and you're getting appointments, you have to be patient when you're bringing on somebody new. And that stuff does take time. Luckily for me, like when I brought on Kyle with this, he just got into it. He knew what he was doing. Like, I could tell exactly when I was on the call with him. So let's jump back into a little bit more characteristics like that. You want to look for people that are competitive. Sales experience would be ideal. At least it doesn't have to be digital marketing. It could be, life insurance, health insurance, car salesmen, people like that are pretty good too. But more importantly, when you're in like that, if you could tap into somebody in your network, I think the importance of having somebody like that you can meet up with like this is just huge.
Definitely.
And something like with Kyle, I'm going to be flying him out to San Diego soon, so we can have something like this where we just sit down and game plan all this stuff. But if you can be with somebody and actually be able to bounce ideas off and actually train them in person, it's night and day difference how fast they pick up everything.
Yeah, and another thing is you got to make sure that they're a person you like, what I mean? Like, they're representing your business. If they're like kind of a slimy person, you don't want someone like that to be in charge of your business,
No slimy people.
No slimy. You don't like slimy people, and I think that's one of the most important parts too, because like, if someone's getting on these calls and like just acting a fool and like, like doing bad business with people, that's going to come back to you. It's going to make your business look pretty shitty, So make sure it's definitely someone, especially like, you're going to be talking to them every single day. You're going to be training them. Make sure it's someone you like talking to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's facts. That's facts. So that's for the most part on the sales side. I want to talk a little bit more about VAs, but do you guys have any specific questions on, hiring, firing for sales? We've done it quite a bit. Let me check the chat in here just in case we do have anything.
Oh, one thing before you fire a salesperson, just because you're talking about that, is give it time. If 1 month is not enough, give everything 90 days to try out, to give them, experience, let them get the hang of everything. And then after 90 days, if you don't see any like positive traction, then you can fire them.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And that's a good rule of thumb for a lot of things, is always give it, whatever you're doing, if it's like a new niche that you're testing out or something, give it 90 days. I mean, you guys have the resources in here and everything. It's like, give it time, because a lot of times in this space, because I'm sure you guys see it all the time, I see it all the time as well, is like, you look on Instagram, you're like, oh shit, this guy just, he closed, he has closed a new deal, or this guy's got a brand new i8. Like, why am I not making that much money this fast? It's like, you guys got to give yourself time with all that. So I thought you guys were in a hunting lodge. Bradley, no, we are in Kentucky though. That's where we're from originally. Question. So mine is starting Monday. Should I ramp up my ad spend? Bradley, how many appointments, you can unmute yourself, man. How many appointments are you getting per week right now?
I mean, so we're just getting started off with him. In the pipeline for his industry, I already have 7 leads, but the ad account has been shut down for 2 weeks, so that's why everything was on hold. But I was getting it at like $7.59 per lead.
Okay.
And he's experienced with selling like SEOs and other stuff to plumbers specifically. But I want to, be driving him enough stuff, and we're starting the cold emails also on Monday and LinkedIn outreach, but just trying to figure out, should I jack up my ad spend right now to start like driving in more, or should I start him off with like colder stuff if he has experience?
Gotcha. So you're going after plumbing, right?
Yeah. One.
What I would do is, I mean, So are you doing just lead forms to get clients? Or
Yeah,
you,
I'm doing lead form to Calendly and to high level.
okay. Do you know what your seat cost per booked appointment is right now?
No, I don't, because none of the leads have been called.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I would factor in that cost, but I mean, how much are you spending per day right now?
I just have it at 15 a day,
Yeah.
but since he's starting Monday, I don't know if I should just like jack it up to 50 bucks on each
I
ad
would
over the weekend.
gradually do it. I would really get him focus on like the back, like, because it's okay for him to screw up organic, but like paid ads, you want them on that shit. So,
Okay.
I would see how he goes on the organic side, maybe throw him some paid ads ones here and there and see how he does by himself. Because one thing I've realized with sales reps is you don't want to spoil them too fast up front. You want them to work hard for that shit. And then once they start putting the work, you're like, all right, I'll help you out a little bit more. And then because you don't want them to forget the hustle and the grind methods of, hey, I got to call these leads and everything like that.
Are you, would you suggest pushing for like a 1 call or 2 call close?
I like 2 call closes.
Okay.
Reason being is because one, you can qualify them on the first call to see if they're worth the whole call in the first place. We do push to discovery call. We do discovery call, then close. But if they have time, we'll do it in a 1 call close. Meaning, like, if we call them up, we qualify them. Like, hey, Mr. Client, you know what? It actually sounds like you're a really good fit. I'm gonna actually cancel my next call right now. Are you available to hop on? Are you available for another 30 minutes so we can go in detail about how this process would be able to benefit you guys, and then try closing them on the spot like that.
Gotcha.
Do you push a Zoom link to them, or do you do it like straight up on the call? Yeah. I'm talking to you.
Oh, me? I thought you were talking to.
No, do you on that case, like, will you like pitch them on the call, or will you make it a Zoom call? Like, will you send the Zoom link?
Well, so I mean, if I have them on the Zoom link at first, I would just keep them on the Zoom link. But if we're on a call, I'd be like, all right, cool. Well, I'm just going to text this over to you or just send it over to them the easiest way. I mean, it's just relate with your clients. Be like, can you hop on? Can you stay another 30 minutes right now? If they can, awesome. If not, no worries. I mean, you can just schedule them for another time to close them. But, we push for the 1 call, like the 1 call close. Technically, it's really like a 1 to 2 step if you want to be technical about it. But most of the time, people, especially in the doctor space, they are, usually jam packed with appointments. So
I was going to ask you that, like, is there a difference that you found between like the blue and white industries as far as like, computer technology access for a Zoom call or like those sorts of things?
Oh yeah, doctors. Most of them. I mean, it's depends on the age range, but majority of doctors, it's one of those things where it's like teaching them to actually get on the Zoom call is a little bit different. But if they are coming from paid ads, it's one thing we noticed. If they're coming from paid ads, they're usually a lot more technically. They're more advanced. So
Interesting.
Every industry is different. That's why it's really important to kind of master one. In solar, we've realized like if we have a discovery call with somebody and they're a good fit, they're a lot easier to just push on to the next call because they're in sales, they get it, they want to get to the point. Just in every industry is different. Any other questions on the sales aspect of things before we move on? Cool. So, I kind of wanted to rewind a little bit because we went straight into sales, but if you're going the hiring route and if you haven't made this yet, the VA aspect is absolutely necessary. Highly recommend if you don't have a VA right now, that everybody gets one, whether you start them out at part-time, like 10, 20 hours a week, all the way to full-time. I mean, you can get them going for, I think our VAs, we just upped our VAs to like $3 an hour, but you can get them started at $250. Isn't that like $250? Yeah. So $250 to save you a lot of time and also ultimately to create processes in your business is absolutely huge. So if you guys need any extra VAs, hit up Bradley. He has one that's trained. He just messaged that in the chat to me and see what you guys can make out of that. We'll let you kind of figure that out after this call, but good looks on that, Bradley. Is there anything, I mean, I don't want to get too much into detail on the VAs because I feel like we've probably covered that for the most part. Is there anything, what do you have to say about VAs?
So first off, VAs will change your life. Probably the best investment you'll ever have. But again, with VAs and every other aspect of your agency, is like you have to prove the model yourself first before you hire some VA. You have to show them what needs to be done before they can actually do it. Same with sales. Like you can't just say, hey, here's what I'm offering, go close these people. You have to show them exactly what you're offering, like prove the actual system. So prospect yourself, figure out how to do it, what works best, what's the best copy, all that, and then give your VA a very simple task. It says like, hey, every single day, do these 4 steps. That's the only thing you got to do.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I'm going to stop you there for a second, because a lot of people that don't see success in their prospecting methods, a lot of times they're delegating 100% of it, which if it's like cold email or something like that, yeah, you can delegate that, but you got to like track to see what's working. Whereas like with Facebook ads, like with Facebook Messenger, like prospecting on Facebook, like there's no reason none of you guys can't have booked appointments this week from Facebook Messenger. Like it is by far the easiest way. I promise you that. You just have to go out there and be a real person talking to people. Once you start having VAs out there prospecting more and more, you lose more of that human touch, which is fine, but you have to perfect the system yourself at first. So, we preach the automation aspect on all this and everything, and that definitely is true. It happens, but the back end of that is you have to test things yourself. Like I'm still constantly testing stuff like right now with my messaging to get more agency owners. It's like I have my assistants in there sending messages on Facebook, but like even this week during Christmas or during the holidays, like I was just testing new things myself to see what would stick. Because again, the moment you stop, when you just think everything's just going to go by itself and you're just going to like never do anything, that's the moment when everything eventually will crash. So you want to prevent the crashes by testing new things that will work in advance. And again, don't be afraid to test random stuff. Like, I mean, if you guys have been on any of the other calls, like I got really weird with a lot of the messages I said. Like this was when I was going 100% after chiropractors. I would slide in the DMs and be like, hey, I saw it's baby Jess's birthday today. Hope she's having a great birthday. It'd be great with that. More patients in the door. You want to talk about how we can do that? And like just getting creative with different ways that you can do it and getting your personality out there is ultimately absolutely necessary.
That's huge. Yeah. And another thing with the Facebook DMs is the follow-up is everything. If you expect to send 1 or 2 messages and get a booked appointment, it's not going to happen. I would say majority of my booked appointments from Facebook come from like the 10th or 12th time I've reached out to them,
Really?
And yeah, it's a long process too. And like, not even that, like I'll hit them up, I'll have a conversation. I won't be salesy at all. Like, I'll just communicate with them. And then like, they'll know exactly what I do because they go to my profile. And then like what you said, like for their birthday, I'll sign their DMs like, oh, hey, happy birthday. I see you're doing well, blah, blah, blah. And then, hey, by the way, how's business going? Do you have 5 minutes to talk about, how we can help each other, and like, we have a 12-day, I think it's a 12-step follow-up sequence where we will send up to 12 messages until they book or tell us to, leave them alone. So,
yeah, I think that's huge because, I mean, we do that naturally, like without even thinking about it, is like just following up with people, days out and just be like, yeah, how's it going? It's simple. How's business going?
How are you doing? How's life? How's the family? Like, don't be salesy. People like to do business with people they like. And if you actually show them that you care about them, they're way more likely to do business with you.
Yeah. And if you are going to be salesy, keep it like a smart salesy aspect. Like, don't send them a paragraph about what you do and how you can help them because no one's going to read a whole paragraph.
Yep.
Like, again, you got to think about it as, and this is a good process when you have your VAs, is selling one step at a time. You don't sell the deal in a messenger. Like, I promise you, I think there's maybe been one time. No, I won't even classify that. Like, there's never been a time where I've sold a digital marketing digital marketing deal like that. Something over $1,000 just through Messenger. Where it's a commitment, where a business owner has to be on board and everything. Like, you got to think about it as step 1, get the prospect to reply, right? And then from there, you're going to sell them onto appointment. From there, you're going to sell them onto a potential to work with you guys. So it's a good philosophy to keep in mind is you got to sell the appointment before you sell the deal, and have your VAs understand that too. You guys have any specific questions about VAs, VAs, how to find them, how to get them, how to train them, things to be looking at. And that's another thing. If your VAs are not picking up on things, chances are you're not training them enough. What I recommend and what we've both done is having them on a daily meeting call every single day for at least the first 3 months. And then from there, they start picking up. And I mean, we do 3 meetings a week right now with my team. So if you're not having team meetings and you have your VAs or even a partner or anybody on your team, you guys have to be having that stuff right away. Like have that right now I would have it every single day.
That and another huge thing that helped me with my VAs is buying them courses and sending them like YouTube videos.
That's
like,
huge. Yeah.
That is the biggest difference. Like, just anything, it doesn't have to be anything related to your business. Just like things like to get them understanding your industry a little bit more, how to, Facebook ads, agency, like anything, just give them access to it.
And yeah, that's huge. I completely forgot about that is, if you don't have time to train them on something, buy a course. Like I bought a Photoshop design course for one of my VAs because I wanted more YouTube thumbnails. And, I didn't want to go out there and learn YouTube thumbnails. So it's like, hey, dude, go watch this course, watch it every single day. Give me notes on every single module, report it back to me and let me know what you've watched. And we would cover that every single team meeting. And now it's like, I just send him something, he designs it.
Yeah. And if you guys don't know, I believe it's called Udemy. It's like you can buy pretty much any course for like $5 to $20.
Yeah, Udemy is a good
Udemy
course.
is huge. I buy so many courses for my VAs on there.
Yeah. So remember, just treat them like a real employee. Like, you got to train them the right way. And a lot of times people just get frustrated with their VAs and say, oh, it's not working. It's not this. Like, if it's not working, it's not your VA, it's you. Like, unless they're literally just not showing up and doing anything, it's you. I've hired a lot of VAs, and there's only been really one time where the VA, like, he would get stuff done and work, and it was good, but he would just be late and just not show up to certain times. So, if that's the case, move on. But if they're all these VAs, like, these guys want to work, and they're all smart individuals. They just need the proper guidance. So if anyone's ever out here saying like, yo, my VA just sucks, and if they're showing up to your calls and putting in the work, chances are it's probably you that sucks. So fix your attitude and get that stuff right the right way. Because I'll be honest, like I thought the same thing at first. It was like, oh man, this VA's not working. And then it was like, oh, well, how many team meetings are you having? Oh, maybe one a week. Well, that's your first problem right there. They need to be trained every single day until they pick it up.
For at least 3 months.
I think 3 months is a good point. And, it does require work. Like an automated agency, like you do have to put in the work up front. Like it does take a lot of work, but I promise you, if you can kind of picture the bigger vision of all of this, those are the type of people that see really good success in the agency space. And like, that's the same thing that I started doing. Like once quarantine started, as you guys noticed, like I started this coaching program up again because this is my real passion. And guess what? Like I grinded my ass off since quarantine. And now I'm at the point now where like I can go and travel more. And like I have my team and my VAs and my sales reps and my assistants, they're doing stuff for me as the business grows. So it's like, you have to be able to put in that work up front. That's why we'd really recommend going through that 90-day blitz, 30-day blitz, 60-day blitz, whatever it is that you want to do. But if you haven't watched the blitz video inside the course yet, watch that and implement it, because that's the stuff where you come out like whenever the blitz is done, you're like, damn, like I'm going to keep this blitz going. Because I was telling you this the other day, like I started one, it was only going to be 90 days, but it ended up being like 180-day blitz just because we had so much momentum going. And when you see all that momentum, you see stuff working, you just want to keep grinding and grinding.
Ride that momentum wave.
That's all it is. Yeah. Momentum in this space is what it is. Like, there's one thing that'll change your life. Understand that you got to get on the momentum train. And the only way to get on the momentum train is start cranking that wheel. And when you start cranking it, guess what? It's always the fucking hardest at first. So remember that. Put in the work up front. So VAs, sales reps. I think what would be the next one to talk about? Fulfillment a little bit. I'll let you kind of touch base on that.
So fulfillment is tricky for me. I like doing fulfillment. I like setting up Facebook ads. I don't like Facebook ads anymore, but I like doing Facebook ads. I like getting results. I like setting up systems. And for fulfillment, there's, I guess, 2 ways you can go about it, or 3 ways. You could do it yourself. You could hire it out to somebody on your team, like maybe a VA, or you could find like a white labeling service. Now, I recommend doing it yourself. Again, prove the model, do everything yourself first. And then, once you prove that method, then you hire it out, you find somebody that's better than you at it. Now, for, I guess, white labeling, if you don't like doing fulfillment, go find a white labeling agency. For me, I didn't like doing the white labeling just because I like to be a little bit more in control of what I'm doing, and like when my client was like, hey, there's an issue here, I had to go communicate with the white labeling team. I was like the middleman. I hated doing that. So I've tried, the white labeling, and I just find the best success is when you do it yourself, prove that model, and then have that VA go in there and be like, okay, this is what they need to do to make this successful. You know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's one of those things, like everything you do is going to have pros and cons 100%. Um, and kind of just go through the pros and cons a little bit. But I mean, I think like the main thing is like, if I've always been a big believer in understanding it yourself, just because, if you go to a white labeling company and like you said, something is in error, I'll give you guys a prime example. Like we've been going through a lot of white labeling people back and forth for a while. We have a couple of different white labeling partners now, just because of naturally Facebook not letting me or a couple of my team members actually run the ads. It's a whole process. We can do it, but it's a whole process that takes way too long to do. So we started white labeling some of our ads and fulfillment. And one of the things that we ran into the other day was one of our clients that's been with us for, I don't know, 7 months now. They wanted to start running ads to what we call like a Zoominar. It's a different type of campaign, but we brought it to our white labeling guy and he's like, oh, can you do this? Yeah, no problem. Just send over the invoice. Okay, cool. Paid right on the spot, ready to go. Told our clients it would be ready in 7 days max. Didn't hear from our white labeler for like 4 or 5 days. And finally they hit us back and it's like, oh, sorry, like personal matters, something came up. Okay, that's fine. Are you going to be able to get this performed right away? Yeah, we'll do it. They've got it ready on time, but like no instructions were sent out to us. Like it was just a mess of fulfillment. So I want you guys to be prepared for that. Like if you are going the white labeling route, recognize and understand that there are a lot of hiccups with that. Sometimes it can be super smooth, which would be, those are like ideally what you want, but a lot of times it's a little bit rocky. So lay those expectations up front with people. But again, if you do go the white labeling route, it's one of those things where you can focus and be a CEO and kind of just know like, hey, I got a sales rep. Cool. All I have to do is just be the CEO, the marketing guy, and just generate him leads. If I can do that, the rest of my machine flows the right way. So it works. We do have some people that are a little bit better at white labeling that we've noticed that we tested. So if you guys are in the market for finding white labelers, let us know. We can connect you with some people. But again, kind of the same concept is, as we grow as well, we're looking to bring it more in-house, which is a whole nother thing as well. I always laugh about this, and it's one of the most painful things to talk about because what I'm about to say is we did bring it in-house, and the guy was somebody that was like, oh, well, we can do all this, no problems asked. Like, I got all this, was talking the world to us. And, for me, to be honest with you guys, it was my first hire as an ads person. So it was like, okay, I didn't know what to expect. Thought everything was going to be good. But long story short, it was the second month that they were with us. We lost $60,000 in revenue. Like we lost $60,000 because of one bad hire with this employee, just because they completely overspent on campaigns. And it was just, the results weren't there. Ad accounts were just getting shut down left and right. It was honestly the biggest clusterfuck I've ever had to do. And I take 100% blame for it because I didn't manage it the right way. But you can bet your ass that $60,000 loss, I've learned quite a bit. And from that, it's like now when we bring these people on board, it's micromanaging the fuck out of them, making sure that they get the results. Because if you're not getting the results for your clients, you've already done the hardest part of getting your client. The easiest part should be retaining them, right? So that was one of my biggest losses. Maybe we can go into more detail on that on another video, but if you are going to be bringing somebody in, make sure that that you are micromanaging them up front to make sure everything's working the right way.
Yeah, and again, I think you should bring everything in-house. One, it just sounds way more appealing. When you tell clients everything's in-house, they like that. And especially like, it grows your business too. If you bring someone on, like say you bring a friend on, I always like to bring my friends on because like, one, they're helping me out and I'm helping them out too. So yeah, maybe bring a friend on and either show them how to run Facebook ads, show them how to do like campaign statistics, or like just run campaigns. And then just have them run it, But then again, like I always say, prove the model yourself and then show other people how to do it. Let them operate everything.
Yeah. Or even like you said, just throw them in a course that works. Like, I mean,
of course, yep.
You can give them access to our Facebook ads course in here that shows them exactly how to run the ads. So yep. It's another option. Okay. So main things when it comes to automating your entire business is, number one, you got to have the VAs in place.
sure.
VAs are absolutely necessary. That's gonna be the first thing that frees up your time. Number two is have some sort of closer. That would be the next step, someone to close your deals. And then fulfillment would be the third step after that.
And the last step and the most important, which actually this is probably the most important in my eyes, is the account management. For me, I hate like so after I got done with sales, I was like, I hate sales, which I don't hate sales. I didn't like doing the sales there. Then I realized I hated talking to the clients, like the account management. Like I that was just a headache. So hired that out real quick. And once I brought on an account manager, everything ran so smooth. You know, we were retaining clients for instead of 3 months, we were retaining them for 4, 5, 6, 7 months. The clients are way happier. You know, communicate with your clients every single week, even if it's not about business. Like, how's your family doing? You know, just be there, be their friend. You know, like I said, people like doing business with their friends.
Yeah.
So the account management is probably one of the most important parts in the business, just because you know it's between you and your client. And if you don't want to do that, hire it out.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, again, with the like account management, if you want to have your margins in place, like we didn't bring on an account manager until we were at 20 clients. So I wouldn't really worry about that right now too much, just because, you know, that is one of the very necessary aspects of it. But, you know, you don't really need that because you should be able to handle a couple clients yourself.
You should be able to handle 10 by yourself. After 10, then you can start hiring that out.
Yeah.
That's only what, 10 calls a week. That's that's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, even that, just check in text messages as well.
Yeah.
So drop your questions down below. See, we got some in here. I'll answer them. Bradley, question about account management. How do you scaffold? How do you scaffold someone into that position?
Does scaffold make sense in that context?
Elaborate a little more.
Okay, so like when you're training someone, there's one way to train them that they're just completely immersed into it and you're giving over all of your stuff to them. Another option is like they apprentice into a position, which is called scaffolding, meaning you take away the things until they assume full responsibility for something. So how to, before you hit that like freaking out like I'm overwhelmed and I hit those 10 things, if you already have like some great English speaking low accent, no accent VAs, like how can you scaffold them into that so it's a smoother, not abrupt transition?
Gotcha. So we do something inside our business with all employees where it's like kind of baby stepping them, right? We'll give them a little bit of responsibility and see how they perform. Meaning like if you are bringing on an account manager for that, we'll give them a couple clients up front and then see how they perform and kind of have them also hop on calls with us just to see how it's done. Because at that point, you're in a training position. So for example, when we brought on an account manager, we had a process already dialed in. Like we had, and maybe I can have her come on and maybe do a lesson for you guys at some point on what we do. But what we did was we had her come on and then she would hop on calls with us as well to see how we did it. So she was kind of like a shadow on the wall. And what we told our clients is, hey, you know, Marissa's here. She's just going to be shadowing as we go through this call. And then we would record the calls as well and train them. So it's kind of like one of those things where you gradually give them more and more access and eventually 2 to 3 weeks into it, it's something where they can fully take on the position.
Do you have like SOPs, A, for that, and then B, for like, you were saying that it's so important to have those interpersonal communications and dialogues. Are there SOPs for that, for those like cultural sensitivity pieces in order to facilitate that?
Yeah, so I can check in. I think we have an SOP for like basically like onboarding and when we have like the account management check-in calls. As far as that, we use a actual account manager from the US to do our account management calls with our clients, just because we've tested it with VAs and it might just be because most of our clients are doctors and they're pretty well educated. But you know, having a VA on there that doesn't know, like they're well versed in English, but when they're having a full-on conversation, it's like, what, you know how it is. If you ever call a credit card company and you know as soon as you get a call it's a VA, you're like, oh god damn it, like this is gonna be a long call. So I recommend, if you are going the account management route, to have like, you know, someone in the US based.
What's your typical pay for them?
We pay $2K a month.
Oh, okay, so it's
Between
not like
2K
crazy.
and 3.5K.
Got it.
Yeah.
And another thing you can do with that is, you know, if you have someone looking for an opportunity to get some work done, you know, especially remote, pay them a percentage of each client. You know, be like, hey, like I have 10 clients, I'm going to give you 5% of what this client's worth, or 2% or whatever. All you have to do is call them every single week and see if they're happy.
Yeah. Give it
Smart.
like an incentive base for if they retain clients.
Yeah, and that's what we do too. You know, we have it. You know, when you retain a client, you'll get 10% of that, whatever you close it for again. If you get a testimonial, we'll give you $50, and then um, I think that might be any upsells too. We give them, I think another 10% of whatever upsells they get.
Yeah, I would create like a scorecard saying like if you are going the commission route, like having like, hey, $50 for a testimonial, $50 for a referral, $50 for, obviously kind of factor it out how what's more valuable to you. And at every stage you're different. Like if you don't have any testimonials right now, go get testimonials. That's huge. Like that first testimonial I had from my client that's been with me for like 3 years now, I can't even tell you how much money that's made me. Like it's hundreds of thousands of dollars just because it's something that we always send our clients. We use in our email campaigns. We use on our pitch deck. It's like, if you don't have a testimonial right now, like that should be your guys' first goal, is making sure that you get a testy.
Get the testes, and the best way to get the testes is by, like I said, talking to them every single week, and then find when they're super happy, when they're like, oh wow, this lead was great. Okay, great. Well, do you mind if you shoot me a quick 1-2 minute video of just, explaining what you like about this or whatever? Do it when they're happy. But one thing I've noticed is, it's really hard to get those testes from them. So what we do now is we get on the calls with them and we're interview them. We're just like, hey, do you mind if I record this? I'm like, nah, not at all. And we'll say, how long have you been with us? What's your name? What do you like about the system? And all that stuff. And then just use that, chop it up, and get the testy.
Yeah, get the testes. Another a good process that we have in place for that is when a client is happy, again, whenever they're happy, like get on that train. When they're happy, we'll say something like, hey, we have another client on the fence right now. Instead of bothering you, getting you on a call with them, do you mind just like shooting over a quick 1-minute video about your experience with us? In return, we'll send you an extra 10 leads, something like that. Give them a little incentive to do it, or maybe like an Amazon gift card, or you'll know your clients more than what I can say from here. But for us in the doctor's space, they're always just like, oh, I just want more leads. So
yeah, another thing is to be like, hey, is there any way you can do that today by the end of the day? That would be fantastic. Like, give them a deadline to do it. Like if you do it by today, we'll give you an Amazon gift card, or we'll send you a bottle of wine, or whatever you like.
Yeah, deadlines are huge. So get those testes. Testes are huge.
Testes are huge.
I hope so. You guys got any more questions? Drop them in the chat if you do.